Welcome back. In this tutorial, we're going to cover normal ortho number 8. This is a really good one. It looks pretty complicated, but I'm going to show you two different ways to do it with material addition and material subtraction. And the thing about this is it's not that complicated when we ask our base questions. Okay, so how would we describe this part? Or let's take it a little step further. How many chunks could we tear this part into? And I would say we could tear it into 3 chunks. So we would have this L-shaped chunk here. That would leave a rectangle here and a rectangle base. So now that we've kind of gone through and described our part a little bit, which view best shows us the shape? Well, I would say this part, probably all 3 views. And it's not that important. Next question, though, is do we have symmetry? And the answer to that is no. There is no symmetry on this part. So where do we start? Well, let's start doing material addition. And for material addition, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this base first. And what I like to do when we get into more complicated parts, and I'm going to say this, a couple more times here, but what I like to do is I like to get something started so I can see on my screen that I'm making progress. It's just kind of a good way to, not psych yourself out when it comes to more complicated parts. So if we pop over to Inventor, I'm going to start a sketch on the top view. Make sure top reads correctly. Project all 3 planes. 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to throw a center point rectangle on my origin, 3.25 by 1.75. And that is 1/2 inch tall, we see right here. So we're going to finish sketch, and we're going to extrude this 0.5. And now we're going to come to our next part, which is this here. So we could do this 2 ways. We could either draw this L shape and then extrude it, or we could draw a rectangle here, which would be the bottom here, and then we would extrude that up and then put an L over here. So let's go ahead and do it that way. So this rectangle is 3/4 from the end and 3/4 deep. So if we come back to Inventor and we sketch on the top, we'll put a 2-point rectangle in, and I'm not going to dimension it. I'm going to put a 3/4 inch dimension there and a 3/4 inch dimension there. Finish sketch, and that is a 1/2 inch tall. So we're going to extrude that up 0.5. I'm noticing that my color of my model's darker than it has been. Not quite sure why that is. Interesting. Okay, well, let's go ahead and move along. Last step then is to draw this L shape. And out here, we don't have any planar face to sketch on. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to sketch on this face. But to make it easier on myself, I'm going to flip my model twice so that I'm now looking at the right side, because from here we're looking at it from the right side. So we see here that this is 3/4 by 1/2 inch deep here. And so what we're going to do is we're going to draw a line from here up 3/4 over 1.75, because this goes full height, or full depth, excuse me. And then we're going to come back to this corner here and make sure we close it at the bottom. If it's not closed, remember, it won't extrude. Now, when I hit my house button or finish my sketch here, we're going to see, hit my house, that indeed we are on the end, so we're going to extrude it this way, okay? and that dimension is 1 1/4. So we're going to go ahead and extrude this 1.25. Now if you'll notice, it's going the wrong direction. Easy change. We're going to flip to direction and hit OK. And there is our part. So what seemed to be a pretty complicated part when it all got broken down isn't really that complicated. Now if we're going to do this with material subtraction, I'm going to delete my other two features and change this extrusion to 1.75. And then the question is, how do we do this with subtraction? Well, first I need to cut out a rectangle through here that is going to be 1 inch by 1 inch. I'm sorry, 1 inch by 3/4. This is 3/4 here. And this distance from here to here is 1 inch. So what I can do is sketch on the right side, put a rectangle in. I'm going to change my visibility to wireframe, and then we're going to go 1 inch, 0.75, and now this needs to be located 0.5 from the bottom. And then if we finish sketch and extrude that as a cut, and now here we can just say through all, and then that's done. So that looks good. And then now what I need to do is I need to draw in this shape here. So this is where it gets a little more complicated. And so what we're going to do is we're going to sketch on the front, and then we need to come from some point over here down 3/4. Well, that's interesting. Inventor has a habit of doing this on some occasion, and I haven't figured out why. When I am moving my mouse in the correct direction, if I type in 0.75, it flipped it to 180. So I'm going to tab over and see if 90 will work. So just kind of pay attention to that. It's a little bit of a hiccup that it has developed for some odd reason. Then we're going to come over 1 1/4. Sorry for the flipping back and forth. And then down, and then over to close it. And then this dimension is 1.25. That's going to shift that whole thing over. So now what's going to happen when I extrude, I'm going to extrude, finish sketch, and extrude that as a cut through all, hit OK, and notice we've got a little bit of a problem here. Now this was not intentional, but sometimes this happens because that little line segment that I drew right down here was so short, it didn't quite go all the way to the end. So what I'm going to do is put a coincident constraint between this endpoint and this point, and now it shifted that line over, finish sketch, and there's our part. So whether you want to do this material addition or material subtraction, or try both, it's not going to matter as far as I'm concerned when I grade it. I just want to see the part is correct. So hopefully this kind of helps when we have a little more complicated of a part to kind of break it down, remembering those 3 questions that we ask ourselves at the beginning of each part. Thanks, and we'll see you in the next video.